What's up, guys? It's Justin Bianco. We got another episode of Ball Players Evolution. This is episode 16, and we are going to talk about how the best players think differently. They don't think better, they think different. And I'm going to give you some real examples about that. I'm going to give you some stories that I had learned of how this is true of when I got into a pro dugout versus an amateur dugout at the high school level, at the youth level, and just the different communications going on about how a high level athlete can think different compared to the rest of the pack. And so I hope this is going to be helpful for you. I hope you can even pick up one thing that you can use in your game, you can use this year, this season, next season, and so on. So I'm going to get right into it. First off is this. Here's the first mindset shift I would encourage all players to make, and it's something that happened for me almost by accident, just by realizing what what serves the player the best. Okay, and so here's the most common one. You get into a game and you're facing a great team. Okay, here's what starts to happen. Most players have some type of intimidation that they feel. Okay, that's most players. I think that's everyone's natural initial instinct, and I think there's a select few guys that don't let it bother them, and then I think a majority of players do let it bother them. Bother them, right? So here's the conversations that start taking place, right? So they look at what the other team's record is, and then they start talking and asking questions about that, and then they look at who's pitching and seeing how good he is or how hard he throws or what pitches he throws. And then the conversation begins about that. And then conversation starts about where the team's from, who all they've played, who all they've beaten, the scores of all of their games, and conversations start about that. And again, keep in mind, this is pre-game in the dugout, on the bus, whenever, right? And so when these conversations start happening, we begin this train of thought that most of us don't realize at the time until after, but we are already predetermining our thoughts before the game, and we are predetermining scared thoughts, not thoughts of going out there and competing and being aggressive and doing the things you should be doing, the things that I preach to players that we need to implement into our game. And conversations, the more you conversate about it, the more thoughts come from it. Okay, so we don't understand how important the conversation, how powerful conversation is, regardless if it's things that you're trying to avoid or do. You know, our mind doesn't really filter out the word no. Okay, so if you say I don't want to be afraid of this team, or I am afraid of this team, you kind of have the same feeling inside because again, your mind is not filtering out the word no. So then what happens? Then conversation starts about who's going to be the pitcher against our team this game. Oh, and how hard does he throw? And how has he done against all the other teams? And what's his record? How about his ERA? How good's his curveball? Oh, he struck out Jimmy across the street, and he's one of the best hitters in the league. And then again, conversations start building and building and building about how good the other team is. And I think we fall into the same trap when we face a team that's not very good. Maybe we face a team that's not very good, hasn't won a game all season, and we start saying to ourselves, well, we should crush this team. You know, we're going to win this and that and all these things. And then you fall into the trap of playing down to your competition, which you got to be very careful of because, again, you're predetermining something that hasn't even happened yet. Okay, and so you're going to see in baseball, in life, that the more you can just focus on what you can control, the better off you're going to be. And the more you can detach from the result and really commit to it, because we can all say, oh, don't worry about the results, but are you really committing to it? Are you holding true to it? That's the difference. I think there is a certain amount of guys that just don't they don't do very well at controlling what they can control. Let's say a third of the players do that. Let's say another third of the players tell themselves that they're just going to control what they can control, but they don't do it. And then maybe there's another third that tell themselves that they're going to control what they can control and they actually commit to it. So break that up into three different parts, right? Three different groups, a third of each. So let's just say two-thirds of the players are maybe, saying that they're doing the right things, but only half of that group actually does it. That's the biggest thing that I see being in this sports industry, being in the baseball industry, is how many things don't get talked about, and also how many things that do get talked about don't get implemented properly, or not, saying one thing, doing another. And the doing is everything. Okay, the doing is absolutely everything. Can't say that you're ready to rock and you're not going to be afraid of a fast pitcher, and then you get in there and all of a sudden you're a little deeper in the box than you normally are, right? You're a little more hesitant than you normally are. So the key is the actions that you're taking. But those are two huge ones, right? Pre-game, who you playing, pre-game or even during game, who am I about to face, or who's in the bullpen that I'm about to face, or the opposite. If I'm a pitcher, right? Who am I about to face that's a great hitter? How many hits has he got? What's his average this season? What's how many home runs does he have, and who has he had his hits against? Oh, my buddy down the street, he's one of the best pitchers in the league, but he pitched against this guy and gave up a home run. That must mean he's going to hit a home run off me too, probably. These thoughts that we're planting the seed in things that we don't realize are weeds, right? We're setting ourselves up for weeds to grow in our mind, and it's a very very negative space to live in, and we ignore where it starts. We ignore the fact that we are the ones in control of planting the seed. You've got to hear what I'm saying. And for some of you guys, it might sound hokey, but the longer you play, I promise you, you're going to start to realize this stuff is true. Okay, it's not made up. There's nothing mystical about it. You've got to be a player that plays intentional. You got to be a player that plants the proper seeds in your mind of what you want to see happen on the field. And in the next phase into this, which is directly related, is our body language, our mannerisms on the field, and how much confidence we have. Tight players play scared, and loose players play free and aggressive. And when your body can start telling your mind how you want to move, how you want to play, how you want to feel, then everything falls into place according to plan. Not the other way around. Okay. And you've got to be able to make yourself feel loose when you really don't inside. Okay. Because again, we're all human at the end of the day. We're all going to have a human instinct that we're battling. That's 24/7 until you die. But when you can start to, even when you don't feel fully confident, make yourself confident. Make your body fall into the pattern, into the body language that you want to play into. Then the mind can follow. I think that's a huge one for players. Huge one for me. It took me a really long time to figure out. I remember getting into games against a really good pitcher, you know, and I was a great hitter too, but yeah, like you're not going to have as much confidence against a really good pitcher when you are compared to, just facing an average guy. So you get in there, you get in the box, and yeah, there's always some subtle thoughts of like what ifs in your mind. Am I gonna get a hit, or is he gonna strike me out? But you've got to put up a wall somewhere. You've got to put up a mental wall that filters out and blocks out those thoughts to some degree. And again, just from experience getting in the box against a good pitcher, the times I actually did hit well off a really good pitcher were times where, I don't want to say fake it till you make it, but kind of. You get in the box, you you've got to have your rhythm. You go up there and you got your walk-up song maybe, and it's putting you into a certain type of a state. And then you have your routine that you're stepping out, you're taking your practice swings, you're doing whatever it is you do. You're strapping your gloves, you're smacking your bat off your cleat. You get into a rhythm and a flow in the box. Okay, now you start to feel loose. Now you start to feel comfortable. Now the defense is awakening, ready to see what's going to happen. That's the way you got to start thinking, right? Thinking about what kind of damage am I going to put on the ball? What am I going to do to make something happen today, as opposed to fearing what I can mess up. And as soon as you start acting that way without even anything happening, now good can come of that. Absolutely essential. Took me a long time to figure out, but when you start doing that, I promise the mind will follow, okay? It will follow the pattern that you're setting with your body. And so start moving how you want to play. Okay, think about that. Like really think deeply on that. Very simple sentence, but meditate on that. Think about that. Start moving your body how you want to play. Start adopting a mannerism, a body language about how you play, the playing style that you have on the field, the way you walk, the way you throw, the way you talk, the way you handle things, the way you handle adversity. Start moving in a way that you can now grow into the shell, grow into that player that you want to become. And stop trying to all of a sudden like be Superman in one game or one day or think like, okay, I hit in the cage, so hits should come, right? They should just come. I put all the work in, right? Doesn't happen. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen. You've got to have intention with it from a mindset perspective. Okay, you've got to have intention behind it from a mindset perspective of what's going to happen on the field. Yeah, you put in the work, but guess what? So did all those other guys on the field. Okay, so now what's going to separate me? Okay, and you're tapping into the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. All of a sudden now you have not just one thing that separates you, like hard work, you have the hard work and the different mindset and the different playing style and the confidence and the swagger and the aggressive, loose, free playing style that I preach to all of my players. Okay, now all of a sudden we're talking about something totally different here. Okay, now we're not just talking about hard work. Okay, I mean, like, I'm just being real with you guys. Everyone works hard. Not everyone, but a lot of people. More people should, but a lot of people work hard. Okay, now from there, what's going to separate the hard workers from hard workers? Okay, and so I'm hoping you're starting to understand this. And then I'll take it from the top. The best players think differently, not better, differently. And in my opinion, differently then can become better, then translates to better. But don't think just better first. Think, what am I going to do to think differently to give myself an edge over my competition, to separate myself from the pack? Okay. And this was the biggest breakthrough for me when I started to think differently. When I heard chatter in the dugout about, oh, this guy that, this guy's good, and started to think totally off of that and think about the things that I can control. Like, no, forget this guy. What about me? What about the things that I can do? What about the things that we can do as a team? More importantly, right? It's not about one player. It's not about yourself. It's about the team as a whole. What are the things we can do that they're talking about? Flip the script. Right? When you flip the script, everything else changes. I remember my senior year of high school. We had a really good team. We went undefeated in the regular season, and the team I was on that year, that was probably compared to any other season of my whole career, including pro ball, we had the most confidence as a team of any team I've been a part of, and that's why we did really, really well. Yeah, we were really, really talented, but there was a lot of other talented teams. We had still things that we lacked. We had a great hitting team, and we had good players all around. Maybe we didn't have the best pitching team as a whole. We had a couple good guys, but we weren't really deep in our pitching rotation. But we had a lot of great hitters. We had a good defense. Okay, so it wasn't like across the board just talent. It was the culture established through the mindset of being 100% confident no matter who we were playing. Okay, so you start to see how one thing leads to the next, link to the next, link to the next, and now you get the complete package. It's just like anything in life, though. It's one step at a time, right? You don't build a house by throwing up 1,000 bricks at once. It's one brick stacked on top of the next brick, stacked on top of the next. It's the same way your mind works with linking these things together to become a more complete player, both mentally, physically, the whole thing. So I'm probably going to wrap it up today with that. Just real simple. Start thinking a little differently. It's not about always being better. It's about being a little different. It's about changing the way that you think. Okay, and those two examples too of just even chatter in the dugout, right? What kind of culture are we creating early on that's going to predetermine how we feel before the game? And how you feel before the game and how you feel moments before the ball's pitched usually dictates what happens. And I really believe that. Once the ball is pitched, once the ball's off the bat, then we are just a result of what we were thinking over those last 5 seconds. And I think when you can start to do that consistently as a player, okay, like getting into a mental routine, for example, defensively thinking about situationally, what am I doing if I get the ball? What am I doing if I don't get the ball? What base am I throwing to if it's the cutoff? What base am I throwing to if it's all the way to a spot? Hitting, thinking about the count. What's my approach early on? 0-0. What's my approach 0-2? Pitchers as well. What's my approach depending on the count? What am I throwing? What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? So I'm going to wrap it up with that. Think differently. Forget about better for a second. Just think differently than the rest. Shift your mind off of these things that are just traps and shift into something that's going to separate you.